What a start that was. Welcome to Hanoi. What an open top bus going around the city in plus 30 degrees. There's about 95% humidity. I've been awake for 26 hours. I'm absolutely exhausted. But it looks like it's going to be a fun time.
Welcome to my Vietnam video. This is all the travel footage which I've been finally able to process from my Vietnam trip in 2022. One thing about the crossings are, no one stops, so you've just got to go for it. Oh my god. Absolutely mental. Every time I do it, it's completely mad. It's just around the corner from my hotel, and it's a hive of activity and fun.
Hooray, it's raining. It's raining at last.
It's important to remember it'd been a very hot summer indeed, and it was a complete delight to be out in the rain. And believe me, when it rains in Vietnam, it really does rain. One of the things Rachel and I love to do when we first arrive in a new country is check out our surroundings both daytime and night. We're in Hanoi. It's the second largest city in Vietnam, has a population of 8 million. It's an old city, and it's got tight streets and much wider open spaces as well. We stayed right in the very centre with the intention of checking all this out as part of a workshop recce. So this was a loaned Canon R5 that I had from Canon UK for the duration of the Vietnam trip, and the first few images that I took really showed off its strengths, especially with face tracking. Such a luxury in today's modern world that you can just lift a camera and its artificial intelligence will lock on to eyes or facial features, and this proved to be worth its weight in gold over the next few weeks.
Well, a slight change in the weather. It was slightly raining last night, and guess what? It's raining significantly more. Ah, fantastic. I actually find it quite invigorating, I have to say. Really quite windy as well.
One of the things you realise about Vietnam, just like China, which I visited 10 years ago now, is its resourcefulness. Vietnam just gets on with it regardless of the weather. And if you're thinking this must be utterly horrible to be wandering around in, remember it's tropical, it's actually very warm, which makes it pretty delightful. Okay, I've just experienced my first egg coffee. I'm not entirely too sure what the hell's in it, but it's absolutely fantastic, really good. It's made of egg with like a shot of espresso in them. It's like a milky sort of drink with a shot of espresso in it, and you sort of sit through it and suddenly you get this well of espresso coffee underneath. It's really quite something. Okay, I'm on the railway now. This is a very famous part of Hanoi, simply because it's got a lot of cafes. Hello, how you doing? It's got a lot of cafes, places to sit and eat, and apparently the trains go through here still. Many years ago, it used to be that everyone used to move all of the cafe furniture off the train track simply to clear the way for the train. Okay, right now we're off on the communist history trail over to my history teacher wife.
Okay, so here we are in Lenin Memorial Park in Hanoi, and this is a statue of Lenin. The reason why this is so unusual is because you won't find many statues of Lenin in the world, because obviously in 1989, after the collapse of communism in Russia, all the statues were pulled down, and you can see them in the Park of the Fallen Statues like we did in St. Petersburg, I think. But obviously Vietnam is a communist country, so that's why they still celebrate Lenin, so hence his statue.
Don't step over the yellow line, the guards go crazy. Shaved corgi.
As you can see, it's like a beautiful slow motion ballet. So this is the view of Long Bien Bridge, which we shot from the roof of a coffee shop.
This is crazy. We made it. There's no trouble actually, it's quite easy.
I'm obviously starting to gain my confidence when crossing the road.
Oh, good morning. It's 5 AM and it is torrential rain. I'm at a flower market. I've got absolutely no idea what the hell I'm gonna do, but I'm getting soaking wet. Like you wouldn't believe. You know, I said I wanted it to rain and how lovely it was. I'm taking it all back. All about resilience again, isn't it? These people are just keeping going and doing their business no matter what. But I've never really truly seen anything quite like this.
We went to Zamin, which is on the border of...
So we headed over to a craft centre later in the afternoon, but primarily to go and see a famous man who makes bamboo fish traps. Here he is, here's the man himself. Since I got back, I looked up Vietnamese fish trap on Google, and you can literally see a history of him over the last 20 years. So that afternoon, after we got back, we went to the Literature Temple. It's dedicated to Confucius, a famous Vietnamese philosopher and calligrapher. It was built in 1070, and there's beautiful old temple buildings, pools, beautiful old trees, and even bonsai. I was really interested in shooting infrared, and I've learned over the years to stay to the very end to avoid tourists, shooting my way out backwards to the exit. Autumn colours in the middle of August. It's an aerochrome filter that I'm using on a converted Canon RP. It's a full spectrum conversion, and I've got a drop-in filter system with 3 different infrared filters. I can just put them in front of the camera and change frequency. It's been one of the most brilliant systems that I've ever had, and believe me, it's very addictive. Into town to Hoan Kiem Lake, then to Ngoc Son Temple, which is in the middle of all those trees there. And then every weekend they have a lot of fun on the streets. There's lots of music and even street dancing. I have to say it was very refreshing indeed.
Recognise this? It's the classic India truck stop gift shop. Just like it was in India, but actually in Vietnam. The similarities are unbelievably uncanny.
Next on the Temple Trail, and come on, let's be fair, you have to do the Temple Trail whether you go to China or Japan or indeed any Eastern Asian country. This is Bai Din Temple in Ninh Binh province. Believe it or not, you're not looking at anything particularly old. It was actually made in 2003 and it was finished in 2010. I'm staggered at the speed that this place was created. Look at the size of this pagoda, it's enormous. Huge gold Buddha at the top, of course, and fantastic views across the 700 hectares. Echoes of Japan, pink trees, blue sky, cherry blossom. Wonderful combination, especially with the pagoda. This was the view from the top of the pagoda looking out across the landscape. Worked perfectly for infrared, lots of wonderful textures. Then we made our way over to Ninh Binh. It's a river delta in northern Vietnam. It's the capital, believe it or not, of the Ninh Binh province. Ninh Binh experiences a subtropical climate with mild winters and a hot, humid summer. I have to say, it wasn't too bad actually. Although you might be thinking mosquitoes and horrible biting bugs, it was actually extremely pleasant. There was none of that anywhere. So after we landed, I spent around 10 minutes taking some photographs of the ladies on the river and also some infrared work with the EOS RP. I took these with 100 to 400 and the R5. It was really good fun to do. The camera made light work of this, tracking everyone's faces and focusing with ease. I was able to therefore concentrate on their smiling faces and the interaction. I must admit, there's too many of these stony face portraits, and it's very, very rare that I meet anyone like that when I'm travelling. Now back into central Hanoi for a rather big surprise.
So you reckon you're going to get your shot, yeah?
I don't know.
There was me thinking it was going to be similar to the tin train up in northern India, and it turns out it was a gigantic, thunderous passenger train.
Bloody hell.
I have to say, even though I was tucked into the left-hand side, that was far closer and way, way bigger than I anticipated. And you get used to it.
Welcome to night market. So this is crazy ice cream.
Yeah.
Go on, do another piece, just for the video. Go on, that's brilliant.
You want to try it?
No, I'm okay. It looks very dangerous.
No, it's for free.
Can I try a little piece then?
Try it.
Yeah, give me the video going. And
You want to try it?
That's crazy. It's like plastic.
Yeah.
That's not good for you. You must, when you go home, you must eat vegetables. Anyway, nice to meet you. Thank you.
Come on.
Bye bye.
I walked past this place twice and then I suddenly realised what it was. You go in, you buy your porcelain figure, usually a caricature or comic character, and spend the evening painting.
So I don't know if you can see this behind me, but it's picking up. It looks like there's going to be a pretty big thunderstorm like any minute now. So the entire operation has had to pack up. We had about 5 minutes of photography for a 2-hour drive. Unbelievable.
If you're wondering what they're making, it's incense sticks. It's posed, it's a travel cliche. Do I care? Not really. And neither should you. Just go and take the photographs. This is a f/16 using a 24-70 at around about 50mm to get as much depth of field as I can. I'm slightly elevated looking down on the subject, but that wonderful front to back crisp sharpness is what gives it its power.
It's looking pretty stormy. Here's something you don't see every day at a service station. Look, it's a collection of extremely sharp knives. That's it, a collection of bongs.
Then we made our way up to northern Vietnam to a place called Sapa. So after taking some photographs of some local villagers bringing in the rice harvest, I managed to get access to the inside of somebody's home. This was one of my favourite photographs of the trip. I love the way the baby is apathetically leaning onto her back as she's tending the fire. The R5 and its face tracking was marvellous once again. Using a 24-70 lens at 70mm f4, I was able to take these intimate portraits, and I found with children that if you set the camera to AI servo to combat any movement, any slight movements that you do or that they do, you can keep them completely pin sharp all the time. This little lad was swinging backwards and forwards on a hammock coming towards me, but the camera was tracking him absolutely marvellously. Making silly faces at his friends, it actually worked better when I got in really close and then his personality really opened up. It's here that we got our first view of Vietnam's remarkable rice terrace features and mountainous countryside, albeit in some rather heavy skies. I didn't really know what to make of Sapa. It's like a town trying to be the Vietnamese version of Las Vegas. But sadly, with that comes problems. It's 9:30 at night, and believe it or not, these children are still working. Tourists are putting money into hats, they're buying little bags and trinkets, but this is what poverty does, and these children and their families come down from the mountains to make as much money as they can. But how could you leave a 2.5-year-old sat by the side of the road like this?